Listen at 610 AM, 102 FM.
I listen, therefore I know.
Online at kvnutalk.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
I listen on the app.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Whole Tree Care. An 18-year-old Hiram man has been arrested for allegedly assaulting a woman last week. Keegan Thigpen was temporarily booked into the Cache County Jail Monday afternoon. The alleged victim reported the assault to a school counselor who contacted the Cache County Sheriff's Office. The woman told deputies she had been in a long-term relationship with Thigpen, but had decided to end it due to repeated manipulation and an overall toxic environment, according to an arrest affidavit. On March 10th, a woman claimed she went to Thigpen's residence to retrieve some property. When she told him that she was leaving, he allegedly assaulted her and locked her in a bathroom until she agreed to talk to him. When Thigpen let the woman out, he reportedly kept her from retrieving her clothes and other possessions. He also took her car keys. The woman told deputies that when she tried to leave and go to work, Thigpen wrapped his arms around her, causing her not to be able to breathe for about 30 seconds. He then walked her to her car, but held on to the gear shifter so she couldn't put the vehicle in gear. The report explained that Thigpen allegedly continued to restrain the woman until several people came walking down the street, allowing her a chance to leave. According to jail records, Thigpen was booked on suspicion of felony kidnapping and aggravated assault. He was later released on $5,000 bond. The case is being screened by prosecutors at the Cache County Attorney's Office to determine whether or not criminal charges are filed. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather for tonight. Mostly cloudy, rain showers likely this evening, then a chance of rain after midnight. Overnight, the low will be around 30, and then Wednesday, mostly cloudy, mid-40s for the high. Partly cloudy Wednesday night, colder, lower 20s, and then sunny, lower 40s on Thursday. It's been to 52. Right now, it's 48 at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by U&I Furniture. They're stocked up with a wide inventory, lots of chairs, lots of variety. There's a good chance they have what you're looking for. Always a better buy at U&I, 28 West, 1st North, downtown Logan.
Is it too early to bring up yard work? What? Okay, but this is different. I'm talking about tree pruning. I know we haven't escaped winter yet, but right now is the best time to prune your trees. And the only thing you have to do is call Whole Tree Care, 760-6587. Right now they're offering an exclusive radio discount, so be sure to ask for it when you call, 760-6587. Get ahead of the spring rush. Get your trees and shrubs trimmed by Whole Tree Care, 760-6587.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. A 40th anniversary celebration at USU's Nora Eccles Harrison Museum of Art is this Saturday and will include not only 2 new art exhibitions, but a lot of fun. Katie Lee Coven, the museum's executive director and curator, said everyone's invited to this free event.
The Nora Eccles Harrison Museum of Art has been the community's art museum for now 40 years, and we're really proud of our accomplishments, and we're looking forward to having a really fun evening with some live music and refreshments and some fun and family-friendly activities and of course the wonderful art we have here.
She said the museum's current collection includes about 5,500 objects. One of the new exhibitions on view features the work of a wide range of artists collected over the last 40 years.
We focus on American art over the last 100 years with an emphasis on art in the western United States. And so we took on the task with our 40th anniversary to select 40 artworks that we felt reflected the sort of evolution of our collection. So it's a wide range of artworks and objects, and it was a really fun project to do.
The second exhibition is the Dreek and Michael Zorinsky gift. The Zorinskys, that is, are art collectors now living in Boise. They are gifting the museum several contemporary artworks.
And with an emphasis somewhat on women artists. There's, I would say, a bit a tilt towards representing more women and contemporary young artists. So we wanted to feature that gift from them of these 19 contemporary artworks.
The museum celebration is Saturday night, 7 to 9 p.m. with live music, food, and a kid-friendly scavenger hunt with prizes. And a California man has been sentenced to 21 months in prison for burglarizing user fee collection sites on the Coronado National Forest in southern Arizona. Federal prosecutors say 51-year-old Brian Lasanti pleaded guilty to destroying government property by breaking the lock on a fee envelope collection tube on the National Forest. Lasanti also pleaded guilty to stealing more than $1,400 from a fee envelope collection tube on the Coronado National Forest near Green Valley in 2020. Prosecutors say that between July and November of 2020, Lasanti committed at least 42 burglaries and took money at fee collection sites on national recreation lands in Arizona, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming, Idaho, and Utah. It's 5:11, KBNU News Time, and for more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Local news and the best talk. News Talk KVNU.
Jessup Insurance invites you to attend a friendly, no pressure, no cost educational Medicare 101 meeting Wednesday, March 16th. Get to know Jessup Insurance as they guide you through Medicare, simplifying the entire process, all while enjoying a yummy dessert. Wednesday, 7 p.m., March 16th at Jessup Insurance. Call 213-3200 to reserve a seat or drop by for more information.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Let us guide you.
UNI Furniture stocked up with a wide variety of home furnishings. You've heard us talk about their chair department before. It's chair heaven. A big variety means a good chance UNI will have what you're looking for. Also, UNI, your mattress headquarters, including Therapeutic and Maloof. See the new Therapeutic Synthesis. It's a hybrid mattress with inner springs and copper-infused memory foam that helps keep you sleeping cooler and more comfortable. Also, check out the Therapeutic HD mattress line, built for support for all those with weight concerns. UNI Furniture, downtown Logan for over 90 years. Always a better buy at UNI.
Feels like Tuesday. Tuesday has no feel.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, Hour 2 of today's show. Tuesday, March 15th. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. Legislative session has been over for a few days now. The governor is still reviewing bills. Some have automatically been enacted. Some bills have a start date of the final day of the legislative session or the minute they're passed, unless the governor steps in. We know the governor plans to veto at least two bills. One that meddles with elections, in his words, and two, a second that would have banned transgender youth from playing in high school sports here in Utah. The governor said that bill did not go through a healthy process. He chastised Senator Dan McKay and Representative Kira Birkeland for the process. They'd been working on an agreed-upon bill that would create a commission that the governor said he was also uncomfortable with but would support because he felt they could refine it before it was enacted. Then, last day of the session, the bill was swapped out for an outright ban on transgender youth playing in high school sports here in Utah, and the governor said he will not sign that. Final evening of the legislative session, in a press conference, the governor said he was not a fan of swapping that bill out at the last minute, and again had some terse words for Senate sponsor Dan McKay and House sponsor Representative Kira Birkeland from the Morgan County area. So those two bills we know he's going to veto. There are rumors of some line item vetoes in the budget, which there are always a few. The governor will go through and has the privilege of there will be a line in the budget that says the state is going to spend $20 million on X or $10,000 on Y, and the governor can just cross those out. And the legislature can override him if they choose to, but they usually don't with line item vetoes. So we're still waiting to see where all that goes. The governor has a week more still before he has to have all of the bills he's going to sign signed. And so the legislative session is now in hindsight for the most part, other than what they did. And so we'll be talking about that for a while now. It was a very busy session, and I wanted to highlight two things that got a bit overshadowed in the final days because they weren't tied to specific legislation. There's this other thing that happens during legislative session. You have every lawmaker, every elected representative of every House district and every Senate district in the state on the Hill for 45 days, interacting with each other more than they generally get a chance to, especially lawmakers from, say, northern Utah and southern Utah. And they get a chance to talk. They get a chance to swap ideas and discuss things. And two things that came out of those discussions affect northern Utah. One of the discussions, well, the overall discussion throughout the legislative session on water in general, but most of the focus from legislative leadership was on the Great Salt Lake and water development, water conservation, obviously statewide. But in between all of this, local lawmakers here in northern Utah and some lawmakers from southern Utah started talking about long-term water master plans and how outdated some of them were, including here in northern Utah, some water plans that date back 39 years. And they decided that it might be a good idea if lawmakers from their respective regions got together in a committee style or task force style, if you will, meeting on a regular basis and discuss this, talked about how things have changed, how growth impacts things, how drought and climate change have impacted things, whether or not they're working with good data in the first place. There are some large questions about that, especially in southern Utah and the Colorado River, whether or not the data they're working with is sound in the first place, as it was collected more than 100 years ago after two of the wettest years since. So the discussion carried on through the session, and they decided what they would do is they would form this caucus, and then they would meet in a task force style. These will be public meetings, but they will meet and they'll discuss these types of things, and they'll work towards working with local water districts and water managers. They'll work towards updating or at least reviewing, if nothing else, master plans. Senator Scott Sandel was one of the leaders on this, one of the lawmakers who not only suggested this idea but pushed it forward throughout the session to his colleagues. And he spoke to this recently. Well, he spoke to a few things recently because there is also, affecting northern Utah, a huge fund that has been created through ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act, or something that was passed in the first few months of the Biden administration. About $700 million Utah has the option to spend on expanding broadband as an infrastructure item in the state of Utah to places in Rich County, Box Elder County, where broadband isn't really an option, but also working on actually getting a map built of where broadband speeds are actually available, not just the self-reported maps by internet service providers, but the state actually surveying now, and you can take the survey, by the way, at speedtest.utah.gov. That is speedtest.utah.gov. They're asking every Utahn to run a speed test at their home or their place of work, or you might be at a coffee shop, who knows, but run a speed test. Help them build this map of actual speeds and coverage throughout the state so they know where this money can be best spent. So Senator Sandel spoke a bit about this regarding these overall plans that have to be developed before the checks start getting written. And the first, of course, this idea that our water master plans are a bit out of date, Senator Sandel said, really caught his attention as he spoke with lawmakers from southern Utah. And he made a comparison, basically, between the struggles with broadband and water, in that one way that they're both similar, he said, is that you have this federal money that is meant to go towards infrastructure. Water and broadband both fall into that, obviously, but it's impossible to know where to best spend it if you don't actually know where you're at right now. So whether it comes to water itself and how much water there actually is, which, again, some questions we don't actually know that the data we work with in general, sometimes for up to 100 years now, is bad. But also with broadband, the same thing. You don't really know where broadband is or what the speeds are. And Sandel said both of these kept rattling around in his head. and he decided to approach his colleagues about forming different committees or caucuses or task force to try and tackle the issues. He spoke about this. He spoke about the thinking behind this, specifically, or first up here, the water caucus.
Together, Senator Wilson has agreed to join with me and 3 other members of our House to look at a comprehensive water plan across the northern part of the state. Our last plan really kind of genesis is back to the 1990s. That's a long time. A lot of things have changed since then. And we just feel like that we need to take another look at what we might be able to do if anything has changed. And we're going to spend some time this summer looking at a comprehensive plan that takes into account, quite honestly, the needs of the Great Salt Lake, the needs of our agricultural community and our citizenry. And I think we're going to have some tough things to talk about, but I think we're going to have some good things that might come out of that. No, well, not in particular in that way. I think the Bear River Development Act could possibly be one of those things that we've got to look at and see if it still makes sense. We've got to look at possibilities of what could be done to advantage out of Bear Lake. What could be done in maybe different ways to more in-stream flows, those kind of things. But I think we just don't right now have much other than Bear River development on the table. And I think that we can add a number of other things into the basket of things to talk about. If we're going to create a commission or form anything formal, I think we've got 3 House members and 3 Senate members that have agreed to participate in that. And we'll meet on our own during the summer and bring in some experts. We might even have to meet with some of our counterparts in Idaho as part of what we might be able to do in and around Bear Lake. So,
do you know who those senators and representatives are now?
Senator Buxton from down in Ogden, Senator Wilson and myself will be from over here. I believe Representative Ferry, probably Representative Hawks, and I don't think that they have identified someone else from the House yet.
This was, again, a legislative debrief style discussion as things wrapped up there, courtesy of the Cache County Republican Party. You can watch all of these, by the way, on their Facebook page if you want to go back and see the old town halls as they happened during the session and more. That's it. Just search for Cache County GOP on Facebook. You'll find those easily. This second item, as you heard from Senator Sandel there, the water work group is not going to be anything formal. It won't be an actual legislative action. It'll just be a work group of lawmakers from parts of the state where water is a big issue and where they're feeling the pressure from, the Salt Lake City area, especially to supply more water, or they feel the faces breathing down their neck over our water here in northern Utah and beyond. And they want to get together and update the water plans for the region. So that'll be exciting to watch that play out. During the same discussion, Senator Sandel and joined by Senator Chris Wilson discussed another issue that they will be forming an actual formal committee on, broadband expansion here in northern Utah. Details on that right after this.
You already know H&R Block does taxes, but you may not know you can get expert help in person or virtually, or that our tax pros average 10 years of experience. You can even request the same tax pro every year, and your biggest possible refund is always guaranteed. At H&R Block, help is here. All tax situations are different. Not everyone gets a refund. Limitations apply. See hrblock.com/guarantee.
Make your appointment with H&R Block in Logan by calling 752-1651. That's 752-1651, or download the H&R Block app. Proud to be locally owned and operated. H&R Block in Logan.
It's cold outside, but you can keep warm inside with a quality-built, super-efficient York furnace. Count on a furnace from York because it's backed by the strongest warranties available. It's just another way we install confidence. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, at 752-7272. Online at advancedheating-ac.com. York, install confidence.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Continuing on with a legislative debrief as we wait to hear what the governor will and will not veto from the session. Lawmakers met with Cache County Republican Party leadership in a legislative debrief style town hall and discussed specifically two things that were a little bit under the radar during the legislative session. One, because it isn't a formal action. As Senator Sandel said before the break there in the audio you heard, this work group will not be an official legislative committee or task force, but it'll be in that style. It's a group of lawmakers who are basically going to meet and speak with local leaders, water district members, and more, and update their water plans in the anticipation of the state getting a little more heavy-handed in water development, meaning that, well, areas like the Bear River area could see a lot of forced development at the hands of the state. And Senator Sandel said he believes that can either be stopped, if that's what everyone chooses, or it can be at least done much more smartly if local leaders are developing master plans now. So they're going to discuss that throughout the summer and do so in public meetings and more. We'll keep you posted as those get planned. But like water, where Senator Sandel said sometimes the big concern is, are we even working with accurate data? Do we even know how much water we actually have? There's evidence that that is not the case when it comes to southern Utah and the Colorado River. But do we know? Some of these water plans, Senator Sandel said, were developed way back in the 90s, even the 70s. Do we even know if that's actually how much water there is still? Climate change, population growth, development that has happened kind of hodgepodge in both Idaho and Utah over the years. How has it affected how much water is actually available? Well, they don't know for sure. So that it will be the discussion throughout the summer in this working group of lawmakers, both Senate members and House members, and Senator Scott Sandel and Senator Chris Wilson will be included in this. Senator Sandel and Wilson are also teaming up on another issue plagued with a question of good or bad data, broadband expansion. Almost $700 million could be made available to Utah through the American Rescue Plan passed in the first few months of the Biden administration in 2021. It is there to help states build up infrastructure. They also have more money coming from the infrastructure bill itself. The state would love to spend this, and the question is, how do they spend it smartly? How do you expand broadband? Where do you need to expand broadband? How do things look right now in Rich County, Box Elder County, even areas of Cache County, where internet service providers are saying there is coverage and high speed that someone could work from home, but can they really? Well, the state doesn't know. The maps have been self-reported by internet service providers, so the state is working on building its own map. They're asking every Utahn to run a speed test, whether you're at home or at work or a coffee shop or a restaurant, if you're connected in any way to Wi-Fi, not just your cell phone data, of course. Run a speed test, which you can do for free at speedtest.utah.gov. It takes seconds. And help the state actually build a broadband map of its own before they start writing the checks. Senator Sandel said, like water, where there are again questions of whether the foundational data is even accurate, broadband is plagued by the same thing here in Utah. And if the state's going to spend money and do so smartly, they first need to know where the need is. And Senator Sandel then invited Senator Chris Wilson to join him and discuss this in this legislative debriefing that the Cache County GOP hosted, which was moderated by our guest from yesterday's show, County Executive David Zook. Here's what Senator Chris Wilson had to say about how the official, formal committee the legislature created during the session to expand broadband throughout parts of the state that are currently lacking that access, how that committee will work.
Well, we've got to get it through, but I feel pretty positive we'll do that. And basically what it sets up is a 9-member commission. There's going to be 2 senators, which are myself and as co-chair along with Senator Harper. The other House will have a co-chair. It'll be either Representative Spenlove or Representative Karen Peterson are both going to be serving. We'll have the director of the governor's office of planning and budget will be on that. There'll also be 4 other members in the public sector that will be appointed by the governor, and they will have expertise in either grant writing or obviously broadband expertise, and also maybe financing aspect of the broadband. So it's going to be a 9-member commission, and also the director of the broadband center will also be there as a non-voting, but will be part of the commission also. So it's really going to be exciting. And like I said, with the grant program, federal government, literally there's possibly up to $700 million if we can do it right. And that's why we want to make sure we're ready to go. There's a number of states obviously will be competing for this money, and we want to make sure that we get our fair share. And a lot of those funds, broadband funds, will be dependent. Some of them will be based on income levels and a wide range of categories for us to go after. So it's kind of exciting. We got to develop a plan. That plan, we'll start having our first money coming in May, and we'll have to develop a plan to make sure that we, optimize our abilities to, like I said, to get as much as possible for the state of Utah. It's exciting. It's got a 5-year sunset, but those funds will probably be starting to come in probably the end of this year, we're thinking. Of course, we're dealing with the federal government, so those guidelines could change and time frames could change, but excited to be a part of that. And I'm going to be busy, but that's great. That's going to be exciting and really interesting, I think.
So the bill that created the committee has passed. The governor likely won't veto this one, and it's going to be a thing. The next question is, again, as Senator Wilson mentioned, how do you go about it? So one more time, the first step they're taking is asking everyone in Utah to run a speed test of their internet, not your cell phone internet, a Wi-Fi connection, your home or work connection. Go to speedtest.utah.gov, and there's a quick process there. It takes just 30 seconds to 60 seconds, and it runs a speed test on your connection. It's not something that will collect any of your data. It's literally just looking to see how fast that connection is, upload and download speed. And then they're hoping what this will do is allow the state to build its own map of where broadband is in the first place, but also where broadband is of adequate speed. Because remember, the goal on this is not just to get everybody online so they can watch cat videos. The goal of this is to get more broadband in Utah so that things like the governor's initiative to have 30% of the state workforce working remotely. So the state's workforce is not so concentrated just in Salt Lake City and surrounding areas, that people in, say, Rich County could get a job with the state. This would help, the governor said, both bring different perspectives and backgrounds into leadership within state agencies, not just state government, but it would also allow people in areas traditionally plagued with lower wages to find higher paying jobs. Also, it expands the options Silicon Slopes has said for the tech industry as well, to hire outside of Utah County, with remote work spreading to areas like Box Elder and Rich County. If it does, that would open up a huge workforce for the tech industry, which would invite more of the tech industry to Utah, already a growing part of Utah's economy, the governor said. So that's the goal with all of this. But again, starting out, the foundation is shaky. They don't know if the maps they currently have, which have been supplied by the internet service providers themselves, are accurate, whether the coverage maps are accurate, whether the speed being reported as available is actually available. And all of that would matter before you start putting up job postings and things like that, either through Silicon Slopes or state agencies asking people to come and work there. So the state is asking everybody to help. And again, that site is speedtest.utah.gov. You can run a speed test on your connection. This will help the state build this map. And again, they have until May before any funds will be available. And then they have about 4 years after that to actually spend the money. This is going to be a long process. But in the end, Senator Wilson said during this event, the hope is that they'll be able to bring broadband and economic options to areas like Rich County and Box Elder County, portions of those counties where it's never been an option before. Also, they hope to fill out some of the dark spots in the state. Did you know there are areas along the Wasatch Front where technically they can get broadband, but the speeds are actually slower than some good dial-up connections on the average day? Senator Wilson said that is not acceptable, especially if we plan to move in a high-tech direction here in Utah as far as the workforce goes, something he said is already underway. Check it out. I've linked to all of the audio discussions during the legislative session, which is now wrapped up, of course, on our Facebook page, and also a link to the speed test site, which again is speedtest.utah.gov. You can see where all of this is headed as the state tries to decide what to do with both American Rescue Plan funds and infrastructure bill funds that they want to use to expand broadband access and economic opportunities here in Utah. All of that linked on our Facebook page, and we'll be back after this look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KBNU News Time is 5:36, and the news is brought to you by the Duck Hunter. A 31-year-old tattoo artist has confessed to sexually assaulting a female customer while giving her a tattoo a year ago. Douglas Chavez accepted a plea deal 2 weeks before his case was to go to trial. According to court records, Chavez participated in a virtual hearing in First District Court Monday afternoon. He pleaded guilty to an amended count of sexual battery, a Class A misdemeanor. Chavez was arrested in February 2021 after the victim contacted Cache County Sheriff's deputies about the sexual offense. The woman explained how Chavez touched her inappropriately while performing the tattoo work. The woman told deputies Chavez stated he was looking to see how far down the tattoo could go when she asked him what he was doing. She also showed them text messages where he later apologized for his actions, stating that he went a little too far. Deputies later made contact with Chavez at the Works Tattoo Studio. He refused to answer any questions and requested an attorney before being taken into custody. Chavez was originally charged with forcible sexual abuse, a second-degree felony. The case was scheduled for a 2-day jury trial, March 30th and 31st. Chavez is scheduled to be sentenced April 25th. He's currently out of jail on pretrial supervision and could face up to 1 year in jail. The first known wolverine ever captured in Utah by biologists was taken on March 11th in Rich County, about 6 miles from Randolph. The day before, on March 10th, the animal was seen by a sheep herder tending sheep in the area when he came across an animal that was in the process of killing and wounding 18 of his sheep. As he approached the animal, it ran west. USDA Wildlife Services happened to be conducting a livestock protection survey in the area, and they sent both a helicopter and a fixed-wing aircraft to investigate. As Wildlife Service personnel flew over the area, they spotted the wolverine running through the snow. They immediately contacted their supervisor, who in turn contacted the DWR. DWR Northern Region Wildlife Manager Jim Christensen said it's amazing to get a chance to see a wolverine in the wild, let alone catch one. This was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Utah DWR biologists are excited to learn more about the elusive animal, with only 8 confirmed sightings in Utah since 1979. One of the fiercest animals on the planet, wolverines are known for their strength, fearlessness, and veracity. They like to live alone and hunt at night, preying on all kinds of game and livestock. They don't hesitate to attack any animal, even small bears. Chance to track this wolverine is priceless, and the GPS data will provide invaluable information to biologists. Today is Equal Pay Day. representing how far into 2022 women would have to work to make what men did in 2021 on average. In 2021, full-time wages for women were about 83% that of full-time men. In Utah, the gap was much wider at about 70%, which is roughly $17,000 less. Ariane Higovish with the Institute for Women's Policy Research notes the data does not take into account the low-wage women not in full-time positions who were pushed out of the workforce during the pandemic.
It particularly impacted the service sector, hotels and leisure and retail in the direct contact jobs, which very often are the lowest paid jobs. And women lost more jobs than men in those fields.
There are more than 1 million fewer women in the labor force than in early 2020. Utah ranks 50th among states, and Washington, D.C. for the largest gap between men and women's earnings. Carolyn York with the National Committee on Pay Equity says a combination of factors contribute to the wage gap, including unequal treatment in the workplace. Other issues are transparency and hiring based on past salary instead of credentials.
Let's say starting out at the beginning of your career, you were paid less than others doing the same job, and then you finally move to a different position. Unfortunately, often that pay situation follows you.
Meanwhile, Marilyn Watkins with the Economic Opportunity Institute points out that the pay gap is greater when race is included.
For Black women, Latino women, Indigenous women, the pay gap is significantly worse than it is overall for white and most Asian women.
In 2021, Black and Latina women made up about 63 and 58%, respectively, of what men made nationally. KBNU News Time is 5:41.
John at the Duck Hunter asks, have you ever checked the dryer vent cover on the outside of your home? It could be broken, full of lint, or worse yet, you could have an unwanted guest living in it. John suggests you check your dryer vent today. And if you can't, call John at the Duck Hunter. He'll do a visual inspection, and if needed, run a camera through the dryer vent line to see what's going on in there. For a free consultation, call the Duck Hunter, 770-4813.
We are the Duck Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duck Hunter.
KBNU weather tonight, cloudy, rain showers likely this evening. Chance of rain after midnight, low overnight around 30, and then mostly cloudy on Wednesday, mid-40s for the high. It's been to 51. Right now it's 44 at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Logan Dental Associates. Make your appointment at Logan Dental Associates with Dr. Brandon Preby, Curtis Taylor, or Anthony Larson. Or if it's more convenient, visit them at their Cherry Creek Dental office in Richmond. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Do you want to learn to ski or snowboard or know someone who does? Come join the Learn to Turn first-time beginner class at Beaver Mountain. $80 gets you a 2-hour group lesson, your ski and snowboard rental, and a Little Beaver lift ticket for the day. Learn to Turn is for ages 6 and up for skiing or snowboarding and is offered daily at 10 a.m. Or you can try Learn to Turn 123, commit and complete 3 Learn to Turn packages in one season for $220 and get a Little Beaver season pass for the rest of the season. Come on up and ski the Beav.
After that long, cold winter, my green grass blades are dingy, yellow, and smashed down. I need a little help waking up. Oh, and I need help fighting off those pesky weeds. What can I do?
Don't worry, friend. Logan Extermination helps lawns come out of tough winters. And right now, they have a special on pre-emergent and fertilizer application. It'll keep weeds down and green up your grass for only $55. Call Logan Extermination for details. 752-8450. Based on maximum 5,000 square feet.
It's a time of tremendous uncertainty for everyone, but some things haven't changed. Stomach cancer is still a leading cause of cancer death worldwide. More than 1 million people will be diagnosed this year alone, and it's vital to know your risks and learn ways to prevent it. It's also critical for cancer patients to protect themselves from all viruses. No Stomach for Cancer encourages you to listen to medical experts to understand your risks. Find out more about COVID-19 at cancer.gov and learn more about your risks for stomach cancer at nostomachforcancer.org.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
please be done.
over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
My cup of soup back from the gurgling, crackling cauldron in some train yard.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. It is, well, I mean, I guess this isn't a funny story considering, someone out there in agriculture is short a few sheep, which can be costly for someone making their living off of that. But so I will not call this a funny story, but man, what an interesting story with a couple of different twists. This started with a report of the capturing of, pretty rare in Utah, you'd be not surprised to learn, a wolverine. Yeah. Wolverine was caught first on camera and then physically in a trap hunting sheep, which I'll be honest with you, I did not know wolverines did. I knew they were pretty aggressive and were opportunistic eaters. I did not know they would actually hunt something as large as a sheep. I don't know if this had to do with, bad weather conditions, shortage of food, or maybe it's just something they do all the time. I'm not sure, but it happened. It's also very rare to catch a wolverine. If you've ever spoken with anyone who has tried to trap wolverines, usually in other states where they're a little more common, it's near impossible. They're very smart animals, but they also have some very weird habits that make their travel impossible to predict. Anyway, this elusive predator, after weeks of both killing and stalking sheep on a Utah ranch, was captured in northern Utah. Yes, right here. The Utah Division of Wildlife Resources released the animal, though, a few days later. So what gives? Well, here's the story on this, the full story on this. It was a 4-year-old male, and it's only the 8th ever confirmed wolverine sighting in Utah since 1979. Now, that doesn't mean they aren't out there. That's one of the reasons the animal was released. We'll get to that in a second. But the animal is, again, one of only 4 or 8 documented sightings in Utah. And the fact that there have been 8, it implies that, okay, they probably aren't here very often. Maybe they travel here accidentally. Maybe they migrate here in certain weather conditions when food gets scarce elsewhere. Who knows? Maybe there's something drawing them here because food is easy here right now with the deer down out of the mountains quite a bit more, and also many of them, sadly, very desperate for food at this time of year after a winter like this. So who knows? I don't know. DWR isn't sure. They also aren't sure that the fact that there have only been 8 sightings of wolverines in Utah documented since 1979 means there aren't a lot of wolverines in Utah. They assume that, and it's likely there aren't a lot, but they're not sure. Thus, we get to the part of the story where the animal was released, because this caused a lot of consternation, I know, for a lot of people in the agricultural community. When first it was the talk of probably every retired guy coffee clutch in northern Utah yesterday that a wolverine had been captured. And then to find out this morning that it had been released, everyone understandably wanted to know, hey, what gives? Well, the idea behind this is that they can actually learn a lot about these unanswered questions about wolverines, like primarily, are they actually uncommon in Utah, or is it just uncommon to see them? So they attached a GPS collar to this 4-year-old male wolverine captured yesterday that will enable officials to track its movements around northern Utah and try and answer some of these questions. If wolverines are actually more common here than we think, or if this was just a wandering lost wolverine from somewhere where they are more common. The wildlife manager of DWR's northern region, Jim Christensen, I had a chance to reach out and talk to him a bit. He wasn't able to join us today, but So it's amazing opportunity. It's a very rare thing to ever anywhere see a wolverine in the wild, let alone catch one. This is a rare thing. But again, we have a lot to learn. Because of this, we have a lot to learn about wolverines. So having a GPS collar on the wolverine, Christensen said, will allow them to learn, migratory patterns where this animal's actually sleeping, and they might actually be able to learn from that whether or not this animal is alone, or whether it has lots and lots of friends here in northern Utah. Again, it's not likely because even though we never see them and catch them, signs of wolverine activity would be more prevalent than they are. So it's not likely there are a lot here in Utah, but they obviously do come. Christensen said to the Salt Lake Tribune earlier this week when the animal was first caught, we're seeing the same animal or different animals. We don't know. Is this the same one or same family even of wolverines that was just established in the area? We don't know. So having a collar on the animal will help solve that riddle. For those not familiar with wolverine, it's one of the largest land-dwelling members of the weasel family. It looks a bit like a really angry weasel with larger teeth. And they're not friendly, by the way, at all. Do not approach. They're famous for taking down animals much larger than them, which, again, I didn't know. I knew that they would hunt. I knew that I'd seen videos of wolverines like launching and pulling birds out of the sky. I'd seen them attacking squirrels in parks and other areas of the country in person. But I had never actually heard that they would take something down as large as a sheep. But here's where it gets even more interesting. They actually will take down a cow. It is very rare. Or attempt to. Sorry. They're not very successful at it. But cattle have come back from summertime grazing lands with scars that are consistent with being attacked by a wolverine. So apparently they're willing, at least, to take on animals that large. So the sad side of this, DWR says, is that one of the reasons this GPS collar is very important is one thing they do know about wolverines is what their normal habitat and native range is, and what they also know is that they've been pushed off of most of it by development, and also because of a long history of trapping and habitual population loss. They are an embattled animal, which has made them much harder to help recover. The animals have never been listed for protection under the Endangered Species Act, mainly because no one's ever been able to get a count on the wolverine population. Steve Christensen at DWR said, as far as we know, this animal is on the verge of extinction because we do know the habitat loss numbers, but it's been impossible to really launch, because they're so elusive, any significant, credible study. According to the Center for Biological Diversity, though, declining snow cover from climate change, as we've definitely seen here in Utah, motorized recreation in the summertime branching further and further out into wilderness areas could play a big part in declining populations of these animals or driving them out into more populated areas instead of the hills. There are only 300 known wolverines remaining in the lower 48 states of the North American continent. That, again, is a number no one's sure of. Does that mean there are only 300 that we know of? And that implication, again, meaning that their population is very in trouble for extinction? Or are they just really good at hiding from us, and we've actually only been able to document 300 in existence in the lower 48 states? So, again, the opportunity to track a wolverine, Christensen said is just too impossibly perfect to not capitalize on. But the GPS will also help them keep sheep safe at the ranch west of Randolph, where the animal was trapped and then eventually released. The animal fled. And the rancher, by the way, the rancher counted 18 sheep dead or injured in the wolverine attack. Again, just 6 miles west of Randolph. Wildlife Services, part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture that usually eliminates animals that threaten livestock, was searching for the animal by plane for days. And after finally spotting it running through the snow, the searchers at the U.S. Department of Ag reached out to DWR Rather than shoot it from the air, they reached out and said, do you guys want to tag this thing? Do some tracking. State biologists said, absolutely. And they got out that day and were able to trap it, put a GPS tag on it, and release it back into the wild. So, interesting story from here in northern Utah, and not something you hear of a lot. A wolverine, not only spotted, but trapped, had a GPS collar attached and released back into the wild. And the Department of Wildlife officials say they'll be watching it close to make sure it doesn't threaten livestock. But this is also an extremely rare scientific opportunity to understand what could be a very endangered animal. Check it out. I've posted some of the photos from DWR and some of the coverage from news around the northern part of the state here over the last couple of days. And we'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People right after this.
Hi, this is Drew Allen with Allen Mortuaries. Over the years, thousands of families have planned ahead with Allen Mortuaries. Planning ahead helps you make informed and thoughtful decisions. It also spares your family the stress of making these decisions under the pressure of time and strong emotions. Allen Mortuaries' secure pre-need trust plan can save you nearly 40% versus other plans. Keep it simple, safe, and secure. Go with the proven choice, Allen Mortuaries. Voted best funeral home in Cache Valley in northern Utah. Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house. I also know that I will be one of the first to respond if my community ever needs me.
Sponsored by the Utah Army National Guard. Aired by the Utah Broadcasters Association and this station.
Ah, that's better. Trade in the stresses of building a new home for relaxation. Visionary Homes Priority is giving you a stress-free building experience. Named the best home builder in northern Utah, Visionary Homes team will guide you seamlessly through the home building process. Call today, 435-228-4702, or visit visionaryhomes.com to learn more about upcoming communities in Nibley, Logan, and Smithfield. Visionary Homes, built for living, built for you.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. How does the Biden administration do more to stop Russia's war on Ukraine without getting dragged into armed conflict? The president's hands may be tied. Also, some utility bills this winter are up as much as 20%. Hear why we're seeing some of the largest costs for electricity in years. And more of us joining the great return back to the office. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
That is our time for today. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Hope you'll join us tomorrow on the show. We're talking about flooding. Yeah. Reports today that some cities, due to the expected drought, well, almost guaranteed drought again this summer, will not only be asking residents to limit outside water use, but indoor water use as well. So the drought, at least drought preparation, getting pretty serious already. But emergency managers here in northern Utah, Cache and Franklin counties are telling people to get prepared for some potential spring flooding, despite the fact that water is going to be really scarce come June and July this year due to the drought. The spring melt could come pretty rapidly, and what snowpack we have could come down within a couple of weeks. We've seen this happen before. That would make the drought worse, but more immediately, that would make everything here really, really wet. So, emergency managers are saying, get prepared now. Don't wait for it to be a surprise a couple of weeks from now. The flooding could start that early. In Franklin County, they're helping residents out with big piles of sand and even sandbags available through the County Emergency Management Department at the Preston Rodeo Grounds Rodeo Arena. Here in Cache County, the warning is to keep an eye out for those known problem areas. If you have a spot in your yard or in your neighborhood where flooding is pretty typical, well, maybe take the steps now with sandbags and other preparations to eliminate damage to your home or property when those spring melts finally kick in. And again, stands out a bit since we're talking so much about drought, but we might kick off this drought year, number 2, with a bit of spring flooding. We'll talk about that in greater detail, why this happens and why they're expecting it to be pretty sudden this year throughout much of the northern half of the state. That's tomorrow on the program, as well as joined by Logan City Mayor Holly Daines. Speak to the Mayor kicks off at 4 o'clock tomorrow on the program. Al Lewis and Aggie Game Day is next here on KVNU Logan.
Stimulating talk you want. Information and news you need. News Talk KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.